Welcome to the No Vacation Required podcast, where each episode we ask, why are we still doing that? Building a life you don't need a break from starts by letting go of templated ideas of success. And letting go of templated ideas of success requires each of us to ask, why are we still doing that? Why are we still doing that to the actions we've put on autopilot in the interest of pleasing family, fitting in with friends, and aligning with the dream of the planet? So today we are talking about yet another favorite topic to talk about, which is essentially around the idea of externalization.
Mm-hmm.
We examine why are we still doing that topics here on the No Vacation Required podcast. And so many of the things we help our clients with revolve around things that are outward looking and outward facing and outwardly judged versus things that are about the internal, about the self, about self-knowledge, about self-satisfaction, about knowing yourself. And Caanan, I just want to actually read from our last Substack post. If you haven't already, check that out. It's called The Problem with Commitment.
Yeah, go ahead. There's a really good example in there, so I'm glad you're just going to read it.
Yeah, I want to read this. It's about Anya, who we worked with. She was transitioning into the private sector, bringing her expertise to enterprise security strategy. She was a dream candidate, so the move was quick and successful, and her new role was pretty ideal. It offered new challenges and also, crucially, more bandwidth. She finally had space to focus on her own personal development. So this was somebody who we worked with who was a real high performer in the State Department's Bureau of Diplomatic Security. But as we say in the post, here's the interesting twist. She found herself surprisingly resistant to focus on anything internal. After years of unwavering focus on an external mission, turning the focus inward felt strange to her. Her work had been so consuming that she didn't have the time, energy, or inclination to focus on personal development. When she had the time, somehow personal development work felt harder.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, it's fascinating, and that's the line. And I'm going to repeat that line. Once she had the time, somehow personal development work felt harder. And in the years and years and years we've been doing this, we continue to be baffled by this, how people can find themselves so kind of stuck.
Yeah, flummoxed by personal development work, despite so many of our clients, as we pointed out in this post, are like Anya. These are extraordinarily high-performing individuals who are giving themselves completely over to an external mission, and they're nailing it. But man, you turn that focus inward and they are lost.
Yeah. I think of being with a corporate client work group person recently and asking just a key introductory question about if this person knew their strengths. And sometimes it's just like you get looked at like, no, why would I know that? That's silly. What's the purpose of knowing that? And it's funny because, in this person's case, they were actually using their strengths pretty fully in the role. But sometimes I think the point I'm trying to make is sometimes just the mere mention of introspection or knowing yourself, I guess it's kind of a defense mechanism people have, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Oh, why would I know my strengths? That's stupid. Why do I need to know my strengths?
Yeah, because if I'm performing so effectively in my role, in my external focus, why go inward? What good does that do me? Well, if you're listening to this podcast, you already know the answer to that. It does you a lot of good. But you know what? Well, did you have more to say about Anya's situation? Or?
No, I just think we have so many examples like that people can relate to. And again, the broader theme here is externalization versus internalization. And in this episode, we're going to get into some of the nuances of that and the different meanings or the different ways you can look at how we externalize versus internalize. But we have so many good examples of this. And I wanted you to share what we talked about the other day regarding the office mom individual that we worked with recently, because I think that's a great example that a lot of people can relate to.
I'm glad you bring that up because I'll reference Anya again before I get into that. We talk a lot about really high performing people in pretty extreme roles.
Yes.
You know, Anya's with the State Department. We work with people who are in roles that may not be easy for a broader audience to access the level at which these people are performing. But I'm glad you brought up the office mom thing, because even if you're not in a really extraordinary role, you're likely following a similar path.
Yes.
When it comes to personal development as these people. So we had a great client who, in her way, is doing extraordinary work. But as we were working with her, what came through was just how caring and conscientious, that's a hard word to say, conscientious, she was toward the people in her charge and around her organization.
Yeah.
You know, and she actually used the word office mom.
Yeah.
You know, she's the person who always follows up, always asks you how you're doing, remembers your birthday, this kind of person. She's giving so much to this work, I'm using quotes, family.
Yeah.
But we start talking about turning that care and conscientiousness inward.
Yes.
And it's crickets.
Yeah.
And it feels like this person who is so good at this, who this is a natural strength of hers, and this is just who she is. She doesn't even see this care and conscientiousness as something she's trying to do. It's just who she is.
Yes.
That she cannot bridge the gap between how she performs externally and bring some of that care inward.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe a more accessible example.
Yeah. So
that this can show up for people.
And when talk of that care turned inwardly, here again, gets very uncomfortable for a variety of reasons. You're an expert at that. You just need to flip that around and put the spotlight on you, put the care on you to do yourself some good, to experience some growth and introspection yourself. And it can be really uncomfortable. Listening to you share that example, I was thinking of another high-performing client who had a promotion just within his grasp. It was practically a gimme. So we started talking about some interview prep things and what that was going to look like in his company. And we were encouraging him to create a toolkit, we talk with clients a lot about a toolkit of successes, just so you're ready to talk in a behavioral interviewing situation. Yeah. You're ready to talk about these wins you've had, because the idea is that the wins you've had, and if you're able to share them in a behavioral interview, they're going to show that it predicts that you're the kind of person who will bring wins to the new role. Here too, this high-performing person who has accomplished so much, the minute you flip that around, and in this case, he's got to be prepared to talk about that in an interview, it became wildly uncomfortable for him. And I think the thing I was thinking about specifically when you were talking about Office Mom is he then starts downplaying all the achievements. And I didn't do it myself. It was a team. Yes. And I really don't want to say I did that. So we're talking in all of these instances, Anya, Office Mom, this person, not just normal humility or, I'm not the kind of person to talk about myself or to look at myself. We're talking about a systemic problem, and we've got thoughts on that. Surprise, surprise, coming up in the next segment. A problem with people who have excellence, and they know excellence, and they live excellence, But the minute that's turned inward,
Mm-hmm.
they're not only deficient, but it becomes extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the clients we work with, but I'll own this myself doing personal development work. I'm very proud to say that I give a lot in the work we do with our clients, as do you. It's why we're successful. But I, like Office Mom, can't help but care a lot about the people we work with and give all of myself to our different projects.
Yeah.
I can recognize in myself that when I go to do personal development work, which of course you and I, Kent, are always testing and trying and doing what we can to be our best selves, our better selves, I can feel that resistance. I can feel the speed bumps in my path. And I have a very hard time connecting, even as an expert in this, connecting the care that I naturally give externally to my own personal development.
Yeah.
So I don't want to act like I've got it all figured out and we need to use these clients as examples. It's painfully obvious when I go to do personal development work that there's something very different.
Yeah, there's something very different. You don't have the big gap that we're talking about, but even that, it's this switching of gears that is uncomfortable.
Absolutely. This is going to sound like a bit of a pivot, but I want to talk about good data. And I promise by the end of this podcast, this will make sense. In the work we do, a lot of it is focused on people's professional experience. And then, as I said earlier, then we move on to people's lives, the many other roles people play. But we do a lot of work with people in their career role. One thing that everybody who's in the professional space understands is good data drives good decisions.
Yeah.
You know, you're always looking for good data. It's the enterprise mantra.
And there's such a focus on it today. What's the phrase?
Oh, yeah.
People, and we always use evidence-based.
Evidence-based.
Yeah.
Yep. Data-based. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
It's all about great data.
Yeah.
So it should come as no surprise that we would talk about how having good data leads you to make better decisions. What can be surprising to people is when we flip this around and say, why are we not doing this in the personal development space?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do we have this mindset about external goals and external strategies and things that we can see and touch and measure? Why do we not use this same good advice that we have evidence is effective in our external pursuits?
Yeah, because
why do we not bring this to our personal development work?
Yeah, these people you're talking about, the examples we gave in the last segment, the tools are there, the ladder's there. So we know they can do it. They love it, actually. They thrive on having tools for success in their jobs, for expertise in their jobs. Okay, so are you ready for my soapbox answer to your question?
Yeah, I'd love it.
First and foremost, it's because this is not fostered from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
I'll never forget being on vacation with a couple that we're friends with and their son, who at the time was 7 years old. And the dad is talking about how we tell so-and-so, let's call him Ben, we tell Ben he can be whatever he wants to be, but he has to be the best at it, and we'll help him be the best at it.
Yeah.
And
oh, yeah, I know where you're going now.
Yeah. It's this kid is 7. Why are we talking about resourcing him to be the best whatever in his job. We know, and this is something, if you've been with us for years or many years or a decade, we talk about this a lot because it comes up so much in the work we do. People are not encouraged to look inward, which is the reason why the minute you ask so many of them to, it becomes wildly uncomfortable. So we believe, and we're working to actively help this cultural shift, to make these conversations more normalized, to encourage people to get to know who they are. It's a lot of the work we do, and it's never too late to do it. We were just talking about our most recent Substack post, and here looking at it as we're talking, I'm thinking all these benefits of, for instance, knowing your personality, seeing you create systems that work for you. You've got self-knowledge, so you can create systems that help you and that ultimately then help your external goals, systems that work better for you. You engage in a way that's natural to you. You don't let resistance stop you. You work with your energy, not against it. And that is such a huge one.
Yeah.
People, because they don't know themselves and or they choose not to work in alignment with who they are, spend so much time wasting energy on things that deplete. And finally, and I think what relates most to this topic is you build trust in yourself. So here, by getting to know yourself, aligning your work and everything you do in every one of your roles with who you are, you're building a trust and a confidence. And then
Within yourself.
And then that goes outward into these external facing goals. So this whole idea that we're external first,
Yeah.
and internal second. Oh, wait, scratch that. Internal not at all.
Internal never.
Is bizarre because not only does it not make sense, it's actually boosting to the external roles you play if you've done all this internal work first.
Yes. So let me just make a connection here in case it wasn't clear for our listeners. When we're talking about using good data for personal development, you're tying that to good data being knowing yourself, understanding your personality, knowing your strengths.
That's
knowing your
101.
values.
Yes.
Like, this is the kind of data you need to have in order to make strategic decisions about your life. Because this is what came to me as you were talking. I was thinking about that some people are increasingly, thank goodness, comfortable with doing some internal work, some personal development work. But even there, I was thinking about good data focused on personal development. We're not expected to actually evaluate that work. We're trained, as you said, from like a young age,
Yes.
right, to analyze the world, but not ourselves. Wait, don't want to lose my thought here.
And you just made me think of a thought. So I'm going to hold on to my thought while you keep going.
Yes, no, we don't use good data to analyze our own personal development. Instead, we're taught, if we're taught at all to look inward, to go on hunches and intuition and really squishy, hard to peg ideas of what personal development success can look like. So even there, if you've been taught to look inward at all, it's very squishy and we all know that's not an effective way to evaluate a goal or work at all.
So I'm going to do a little,
to add that.
I want to do a little disclaimer and say a lot of that stuff is good, but we're speaking to the person who wants to have this more set, outlined, kind of evidence-based, good data approach. Your intuition is, of course, extremely helpful, but the audience you're talking about is usually comprised of people who poo-poo introspection because it's all too woo-woo.
Oh, 100%. And I'm glad you clarified. Intuition is critical, and it's a very important way to evaluate your success. But because we're trained to use good data to make strong decisions on all of our external pursuits, when you're then told to just go with your gut based on your personal development, what do you even do with that? How do you know you're right? How do you know you're wrong? Am I on the right path? I have no way of knowing that. So once you've done the personal development work to hone your intuition and understand, once you've gotten past the point where you can trust, as you said, your intuition and trust your instincts, then that is a great piece of data. That's a wonderful place to go. But right at first, it doesn't make any sense to be telling people all of your external decisions need to be based on good data. But the second you're going to go inward, you're just going to go on a hunch. You'll know when you know.
It's woo-woo and boundaryless.
Yeah, if you did that at the office, if you said, "Oh, I'll know when I know," we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
got a hunch. Leadership would be like, "Oh, this guy's crazy. This woman doesn't know what she's talking about."
Yeah. Okay, so bottom line, why are we still doing that? Why are we still looking externally before we're looking internally and scoping way back up and transcending? We're talking about Anya, office mom, interview guy. This is about all of our roles. Remember, you have many roles, but there's only one you. Cling. One of our core tenets is egoless. Fulfillment is an inside job. Don't rely on external fixes or others' approval.
Yep.
Why are we still doing this? As we've talked about in recent Substack posts and podcasts, the world is too fraught for people to be relying excessively on external sources for validation, for guidance. Figuring out who you are and being that person and being better in our roles because we know who we are just brings a level of confidence and agency and efficacy that helps us in all our roles, including the work roles that we've been focusing on this time. So we really want you, as we do our clients, to really question your relationship with being motivated by what you see on social media, believing what you see on social media, using those external factors rather than going internal first, figuring out how you tick, what you're made of, what will make you better at all your roles, and using that, we always say, using that inner compass as your first point of reference.
Yes. And the reason we are still doing that in regards to looking for external validation or being scared to look inward because that external validation doesn't exist. Oh, well, there's the answer. It's very hard when your entire focus is on external validation to look inward and not be getting that.
Yeah.
And so, as we even mentioned in that post, as a little like beware, red flag, even your personal development, you may find that you try to find ways to get external validation for your personal development because it's so scary to do all this deep work, which is naturally uncomfortable because you're looking inward, and not get the little measures of success that you're used to.
Yeah.
So go into your personal development work knowing that it does you no good to try to seek external validation for personal development work. That is personal work. And that not getting that is going to feel scary, so that you know when you go into your personal development work that you need to find ways to validate that
Yes.
for yourself.
Exactly.
And as you mentioned, Kent, those tools do exist. We provide those tools. They're out there. There are ways to do really powerful personal development work to understand who you are, to figure out your strengths and values, and to get the internal validation you need to know that you're on the right path without trying to rely on the external validation you're so used to.
Yeah, I was just looking at a note I wrote here. Lean into the validity of being proud of yourself.
Oh.
It's like we want to devalue that, and we're trained to devalue that because we remember mom and dad when we're 7 saying, "You're going to be the best accountant ever." So we get hooked on these external ideas of what success means and what this role means, what the worker role means, what the partner role means. And we're living up to these often ridiculous ideas of what success looks like, but they're ridiculous because they're external. And if these things aren't grounded and founded in you, there will always be that dissonance, the dissonance that we talk to our clients about so frequently, the dissonance that makes them say, I don't know what it is, but something's just off, right?
Right.
And that's often the beginning of this journey of, oh, okay, we've got you covered. Quit looking externally. That doesn't mean avoid people or avoid, competition or avoid what others are saying. It just means you've got to figure yourself out first. And this is going to explain to you why you feel that dissonance. And you feel that dissonance when you're alone washing dishes, or when you're out on the run, or when you're stalling making the grocery list. You feel that dissonance because something deep inside of you is going, what in the hell are you doing with your life or your work or whatever, is on your mind? It's because there's this internal side of you that's trying to tell you, you are behaving like an externally trained robot or like a robot, and you're not aligned with what you, Jackie or Bill or Beth or Joe, what you authentically can bring to this.
So if I can just summarize,
Please.
all of it. Do the work, do the personal development work. Understand that you're not going to get the external validation that you're used to, and that will be uncomfortable. But do the work to learn about who you are, what your strengths are, what your talents are, what your values are, and use that data to build a more fulfilling life and be more successful, even in your external pursuits.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the No Vacation Required podcast. If you want a life you don't need a break from, a life where you live from a place of commitment and not comfort, join us for regular new episodes where you can always count on us to find a tired tradition and to ask, why are we still doing that? For more ideas, check out our No Vacation Required Substack. And if you're ready for change, come find us at thechangelaboratory.com.